Let us not go to China. We have done it not only in India, but even in UP.
That Shannon project I was talking of was also commissioned in 1932.
Yes.
It's a Chaprot reservoir.
When the Kotlai started Ganga Canal.
It was done by the British and used to supply electricity to Lahore before Delhi.
Yes.
So it's a reservoir.
No, it must have been reservoir. If the topography permits, it must be done. But so far as that Part River is concerned, when Colonel Kotlai started with the Ganga Canal, which was discussed yesterday also in the inaugural first session, he never made any dam across the river.
Yes.
There was a specific channel in the Ganga Canal on the right bank, which he turned into the canal at Mayapur. But there was a paucity of funds, and this is the best he could do. But even to bring that water into that, every year, if somebody goes there, you will still find some parts of the 1 foot rail line going along the Ban, where they use every year during that canal ran only mostly for the non-monsoon period, for Rabi irrigation. Lot of balla piles and boulders were put across the stream to divert that water into that. As soon as the finances permitted, then Sir William Stamps, he made the weir. And only construction of the weir could make possible the construction of 4 or 5 powerhouses on the Ganga Canal.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Vajpayee.
No, second, I'll tell you. Then you come to Tajewala. Tajewala started also like that. But there also the effort of every year putting those stones was so big that ultimately they decided to make the weir. But that weir also was not good enough for power generation. When the Western Ganga Canal recently thought of generating power, they had to make a regular Hardikund barrage. Now, whether hydropower is needed or not needed is a different question. Even for, say, Ganga has about 7.5 billion of storable water. Yamuna Valley has about 2 billion cubic meter of BCM of water to be stored. Now, whether this water is needed or not, if we can dispense without this water, we should not construct any of these storage, including Tehri should not have been constructed. So that is a wider issue, that whether these water resources are needed for the increasing population, or if we don't need it, certainly we need not tinker with the rivers.
Sure. Thank you. I think what we are really talking about is, of course, the session is on hydropower, but there are many other irrigation structures also can create. They are basically designed to create interruptions or interventions in the system across the river, basically. Anyway, so a very quick comment from Professor Gosai on this, particularly focusing on, you mentioned that yes, some of these measures are possible, but with an additional cost. Now the question is that are we or should we be willing to bear this cost, keeping in view the larger damage to the environment and ecosystem which we might create by doing this, or is it really too exorbitant to actually bear that kind of a cost?
No, I think that question goes beyond this on the hydropower debate, because then you have to compare with the other options available. Whether what you will get from the solar power,
yes,
that will be, if it is much cheaper than, it becomes cheaper than the hydropower, then you don't need to really do any damage to these kind of systems. So I think is a relative thing. That's what I said, that things will keep on changing. And this is also true that once you put in the hydropowers, it will be very difficult to really take it back. You cannot destroy them later if you find that now this 500 megawatts or how much you said, 500 megawatts?
I think about 1,000 megawatts.
1,000 megawatts.
Yeah, on
so 1,000 megawatts in the context of 10,000 megawatts is it's 10% only. So in the coming years, if hydropower doesn't remain the contributory power option and solar power takes over, then all these questions are irrelevant at this juncture.
My point was slightly different. My point was that you need hydropower, but for a very different purpose. The base energy can come from all other sources. Hydropower is a balancing energy source.
That's where the question comes.
No, I have just a small point.
I'll come back to you. Let's just finish.
I think that's where I'm saying that if it's coming as a byproduct, and if we say that we cannot dispense with the storages, then let's have only storage projects. let's not bother about the small additions in the form of run-of-the-river schemes. Because run-of-the-river schemes is not giving you a major part. It's a very small fraction. And the major aspect of the run-of-the-river scheme, what is being debated also in this particular context is that you are, while putting this, you are putting around a stretch of around 40 kilometers in some cases, divide of the total water.
Right.
So at any time, I mean, there's no, especially at the low flows time, there's no water in that. So the debate has started with that. That is the time when the river needs the water, and the run-of-the-river scheme has done that. And that debate can be taken forward, that cumulatively, if this power is not very substantial, should we have one storage scheme somewhere in the same area, rather than having 30 or 40 small hydropower and the run-of-the-river schemes?
Okay, Mr. Bajpai, very quick comment. I have to actually go back to the audience. Yeah.
Here we are discussing rivers, so we are concerned about the rivers. Now, we very conveniently say we can have 1,000 megawatts, 4,000 megawatts thermal. When you go on the other forum, everybody is so much worried about the carbon emissions that you start thinking that they will start saying why not going for renewable instead, and the hydro power is one of the options, number one. Number two, once you make the storages, most of the problems of ecology, which of the run-of-the-river scheme which has constructed down-river stream, they will be taken care of automatically. Because, for example, I'll take just 1 minute. Take, say for Yamuna, because I remember the figures. If 2 million acre foot 3 storages, Renuka, Kishau and Lakwal are made, we will be adding in the non-monsoon flow about 2,800 cusecs of additional water which is not there. And this water is about 3 times the virgin flow of Yamuna flowing during the leanness period. That means that we will be adding the woes of Delhi Yamuna cleaning. Of course, sewage treatment, that is a very is an essential part. But if we increase the perennial flow during the non-monsoon periods by another 800 or 2,000 cusecs, and the remaining water is used for consumptive use, we will be very much better off. And these 3 projects are themselves viable only because of the power that they generate on the foot of that dam. So, as I tell you, the aim of storage is not to dispense with. The only thing is have a storage and then choose the run-of-the-river schemes which cause minimum and acceptable ecological damage along with the mitigation measures. This has to be a full package.
Okay, thank you. A very quick comment from Anish I want is, we talk about the evaluation, the economic, evaluation of the upcoming projects. What about the economic evaluation of the benefits accrued of the existing projects? Has the time come now to actually go back and evaluate? Are they still, I'm not questioning the wisdom of the people who designed it at that particular time, but 50 years down the line, is it not that the time to go back and see whether these projects are still beneficial or are they still economical? Has the time come for decommissioning of some of these projects? A very quick comment from you.
Well, I think that's one side of it. I'll add another dimension on whether we are using the value of the projects appropriately. So I think yes, there are several old projects which we need to see the efficacy of those projects. But hydropower projects typically have a very long life. It's not the concession period. It's easily 100 years is not a very big time in the life of a hydropower project. But coming to the second part, I think a lot of these projects are being effectively misused. So rather than using them for, as I said, peaking energy, balancing energy, they're used for base load based on who has the entitlement of the project. Now, so there's a much larger national need, and energy is a national issue. Energy networks are national networks. So rather than looking from that perspective, regulation or policy or center state issues prevent that view to be taken. And I think that's a more fundamental and easy win, because if we do that, and if we do that appropriately through policy and regulation, a lot of these additional costs also can be avoided or deferred till the time we are ready for it. So I think that's...
Okay, thank you. So we had a very nice discussion here. We have some time now to take questions from the audience. And what I would request the audience that please ask the questions specific to a panelist or more than one panelist, and not just offer comment. So if there's somebody has a mic or something, first hand there, yes, and then there, and then here. Yeah, and then here.
Hello and good morning. My name is Pranab Majumdar. I am from BA Tekwabak. My question to any of the panelists is, if we look at our energy needs, and which is mainly catered by the thermal power sector, though we know what it creates to the environment. And after that, I think, and also if we look at our per capita consumption being a developing country, I think it's the lowest as far as statistics. Can we really avoid hydroelectric power generation looking at environmental constraints? I am talking of mega, not non-renewable. Because as far as I know, non-renewable cannot take care to the total energy needs balancing. So after thermal, I think mega power projects are in hydro. Can we avoid this?
Anybody would like to comment on this?
I think there's no doubt that we need the mega projects, hydro projects, but the question is that how many sites, how many good sites we have. We might think in terms of using some sites where the flows are not there, where the storage is not there. And Vindhyaj is one situation where you can divert the water and use it as a pump scheme, where you are utilizing the free electricity or the cheap electricity when you are not generating, when the peak is not there. Most of the hydropowers is going to be peaking situation. So those kind of options we might have to see in the long run. That first of all, the storages have to be really good storages, because small storages, there are situations where people say that let's have small storages, many of them. But then those storages are not giving you the kind of advantage and the kind of the cost which you can get for the hydropower. So you have to look at the system approach. Within the system, what is the overall situation? How much the system allows? So far, we have not seen any of the river system looking at what is the development trade-off. How much the water resources of a particular river basin can be developed. It's the first time that in the case of Ganga, this question is now being debated, because we have ignored that system of looking at the system as a whole and then putting all the demands together. Hydropower is only one of the demands. There are so many other demands. So what will happen to the system? We have never bothered about the health of the system. I think that is where we are at this juncture. And if we can put this as one of the requirement and then do the system analysis and do the river basin development on the basis of the whole system, then we'll be much better off.
Thank you. There's a question there, and then we'll come back to you. Please be short and precise.
Okay. Is this working? Yeah, okay. So my name is Vikram Soni. Listening to you all, I think there are 2 or 3 questions that I have. The first question is that ecological damage in the hills has come not only from dams but from roads. And dams always need roads, no matter whether it is a run-of-the-river project or a dam. And none of them are recovered, because a simple road takes 30 years to recover on a hillside. So the siltation that we are getting is not just coming from the dams, it's coming from the general degradation of our entire hillside. And whether you build dams or not build dams, that's going to be there. And this is illustrated very well by the Yamuna, where you have particles which are spectrum of 0.5 millimeter down to microns. And the 74% of the Yamuna which is cannibalized, even 50% of the flow will not desilt the river, even at high flood. So I just want to point out that it's a very, very important and general problem which produces in its wake a huge number of problems. Because the river depth has got smaller and smaller, and in the summer you can just walk across it. So one thing you have to keep in mind, this is a question I'm just addressing to the panel. The second thing I want to say is that our science and engineering, very laudable, but every time we do anything, as somebody pointed out, there is something which is damaged in the ecology.